right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes and the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill. What a beautiful day it is in Toronto. It's kind of wild that the weather's this nice. Kind of feels like baseball weather. We're getting close to the World Series, and we're coming off a Leaf game last night where you did the panel. I'm sure that was a blast to talk about that for 3 hours.
Dude, I went Charles Barkley. Like, you know how he's had intermissions where he said, I was watching a Leaf game or I was watching the news. I was morphing into that territory because, like, there's games like that where it's a bad start and it's like all it takes is for one or two guys to maybe be on their game and you can get back into it. You know what I mean? Like, Matthews heats up in the second period. All of a sudden it's 4-2. You're like, okay, maybe something goofy can happen. From the goalie on out to every single player, it was a gong show.
No one showed up last night.
Dude, it
Not
was
one
like
player.
It was like one of those things, and I don't really want to even go to the fact of they got in late. Like, it's game 7 of the season.
They've had the softest schedule maybe in the league. They've been at home for 10 days.
Yeah. And look, I'm not going to go nuts on this today, but it was one of those nights where not even one or two guys could be on their game. Like, they all played the worst possible game they could possibly play. They couldn't pass, they couldn't shoot, they couldn't hit, they couldn't defend. The goalie couldn't save it. I don't know, Hayes. Like, it was just top to bottom one of those nights.
It was awful.
Yeah, it was awful.
Terrible.
And I'm in full agreement with, you get 5 or 6 of them a year. It's like, throw the tape in the garbage. Don't ever talk about it again. I don't want to hear about it again because that was just, it was as bad as it could get.
Well, what's, again, frustrating, I think, is that the night before against Tampa, they played almost as well as you can play. And everyone from top to bottom was on their toes and ready to play. And they pushed a very good Tampa team out of the building, and they won easily. I mean, you don't get a lot of those against high-end talent and high-end teams like Tampa very often throughout the course of a season. And the Leafs, to their credit, deserve that. And we come on the show yesterday, and we pumped their tires for 3 hours talking about how well they played, how good they looked. And naturally, usual suspects out there, Leaf haters are like, just give it some time. No, not this time. No, they're going to go into Columbus. Short trip, inferior team. They mean business. Craig Berube's pushing the right buttons. No chance they look flat tonight. No way. Maybe they lose. Maybe they get goalied. Maybe Columbus has the best effort they're going to have all year. You lose 3-2 in a tight one. Shake hands. See you later. Good for you. We'll catch you down the road. We'll get you back. That game was over 5 minutes into the game. 5 minutes in.
I had a parent.
It's so disappointing to see that.
Yeah, it was awful. It was just like how, and I do get it. Those games creep in, usually not that early in the season, but it can happen. I mean, the Nashville Predators lost 5 in a row.
You're going to lose games.
You're going to lose
It's not about losing.
games.
It's how you lost and how you played.
I had a father of an NHL player text me and say, you better watch out for that Columbus team. They could catch you. And I said, excuse me? I said, they're one of the worst teams in the league. You can't deny that. It's just like this. I'm just going by where they are in the standings and what I think they're going to be. It's not they can catch you. Yes, they could work. Every team in the league can work hard. But you just have to match that for probably 20 to 30 minutes, and you should overtake the game.
Exactly.
They just couldn't do it.
They couldn't do it. And that there's going to be, checks and balances over the course of the year with this Maple Leaf team that is just a reality in terms of who they are and what they're going to be, and them proving things are going to be different and making their lives easier in the future. And they're making the playoffs. They're going to finish with 100 points or whatever it is. And last year they finished with 102 points. Very good team, very good season. Yet last year they threw away a couple of games against Chicago early on. Inferior team, bad team. Everyone was beating Chicago all year. They just threw those 2 points away. They lost to Columbus a couple times. Buffalo early in the year. Ottawa earlier in the year. All non-playoff teams, all inferior teams, where they lost and they threw away points. And again, in the grand scheme of things, they still finished with over 100 points and they made the playoffs. But they had to start on the road against a Boston team, as opposed to loading up those points and maybe you finish with home ice. And maybe it's different in Game 7. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you finish with the top seed and you're Florida and you're playing a different inferior team in the playoffs as opposed to someone you don't match up so well against, or is going to be a very difficult matchup and probably a coin flip. And that's the thing that keeps coming back here with this team. Is it's not about what actually happened. Every team's you're gonna lose games, you're gonna play poorly, whatever, it happens. I mean, that's going to happen, and I have no doubt they'll be much better tomorrow night and be better in Boston on Saturday. It's just the minor details when you bring back the core pieces and you express change though with everything else, with the coach, with the top four, with some depth players, with the way the goaltending is going to play out. What you wanted to see, or what I wanted to see last night, because you say it all the time. Your B game. If you're a serious team, your B game wins a lot of games in the NHL.
Damn right.
They didn't have it. That wasn't a B game. They had an A game the night before, and that was like a D game last night, where if you show up as a veteran, serious club, like Florida was last year, like Edmonton was down the stretch last year, like Boston was 2 years ago, Tampa was when they went to their 3 straight Cup finals, you roll in there, maybe not feeling great, maybe not the best sleep. Sure, you got a third-string American Hockey League goalie in there, and Hildeby did not play well last night. But you say, we're leaving here with points. Like, we're leaning on these guys. We're going to hit them. We're going to be physical. We're going to pot in one quick. We're going to get on the power play and pounce and let this team know we're here. And we may not have our best stuff, but we're walking away with points.
Well, that's just it.
And that just didn't happen last night.
No. When you don't have your best stuff like that, I think maybe the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightnings of the past, they're like, we got to find a way to get to the third period 1-1. And then it's going to be a power play, or we can find one of our good players to get into the game. But it was like, wow, it's difficult to look at some of these plays, Hayes. Like, it was just like that checking is just like amateur hour.
Yeah, and
giving up the middle of the ice and rebounds, and you need a stop. It was one of those things mentally where you're a player watching on the bench. You're just like, we're not winning this game.
Not going to be your night.
It's not going to be your night.
Not going to be your night. And that was the reality in Columbus last night. There's Noodles right in the middle of things. Where are you right now? Are you in Utah? Are you in Vegas? Where are you?
Nah, I'm in Vegas. It's been a gong show. I've got the flu. I landed and went and got an IV.
What are you doing on this show?
But
what are you doing?
You have the Vegas flu, or do you have like a health flu?
No, I woke up in Salt Lake City not feeling well this morning. I haven't had one sip of alcohol. I had to go get an IV, like a Hangover Heaven IV, before I ever had a drink, which is ridiculous, and I'm embarrassed to even admit it, but I feel better now. I've got a little bit of the sweats, but it's more because I had technical issues. I think I was getting worked up, but
okay.
We're fine.
We're fine.
You know what I feel like? I feel like the Leafs in Columbus last night.
That's right.
It's just an off start for me. You know
start.
what? They played so well the night before. And then
it happens,
good,
and I'd be curious to see the analytics on using Hangover Heaven without a hangover. Like, how many people in Vegas?
Imagine you get addicted to it, Hayes. It's like you just wake up, and if you're like a healthy person that goes to the gym, but you just start taking it, and you start cracking iron and running 15K a day, never know.
It is a dangerous game, man. It's a dangerous game, right? Because it pumps a lot of fluids through the system. It really makes you feel hydrated and really on top of your game. I mean, that's the experience you've had, I'm sure, in the past, Noodles. But generally, it's because you had 50 vodkas the night before, and you're just trying to get to the pool the next day. Not the case this time.
I've never like, sometimes you feel a little bit off, but I'm sitting there going, okay, maybe what I wanted to do is I went to like the CVS to just get some medicine, and I'm walking by and I see it. I'm like, it's like IV Heaven or whatever it was, like a different type. And I'm like, I wonder if that would help. So I went in and I asked. I'm like, is any non-booze bag ever walked in here?
You're gonna take their advice.
Yeah. What are they going to say? No. Like, oh, no, we can't have.
I know, but what knowledge would they possibly have? They were probably just like, it's $150. I guarantee you will feel better. They have no idea.
I had them take a picture. I'll send you guys the picture.
All right.
I'll send you the picture. I had them take a picture of me laying in the chair, like just getting an IV. I feel better. I had a little nap. I feel good, but I'm embarrassed to admit it. I'm embarrassed. Like I'm in Vegas and I'm not feeling well. That happened to us. Remember when we were here?
There for the wedding?
Sick.
When we were there for the wedding, you were bent out of shape. You were really sick at that point, and Yeah, that is the worst possible spot you could get. That's where you want to be, like in Columbus or Detroit or something. Be like, I'll just stay at the hotel.
Exactly.
You're in Vegas, you want to have some life, man. Here I am taking shots at Columbus, and they pumped the Leafs last night.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? What are you going to say?
It was
It
one of
happens.
those games, guys.
It happens.
Yeah, it was just one of those games. It was, you could tell right from the drop of the puck. I went back and watched it last night. You could tell from the drop of the puck, it was just, they weren't sharp. And you know what? Credit to Columbus. Mm-hmm. They look sharp, and they looked like they were skating, and they got some young players that have some speed. And their goalie, I thought, played really well. To me, yes, on paper, that should have been a formality. But you know what? Columbus isn't going to go 0-82. They're a team that competes.
A two-sided coin. You're right. Of course, the other team's allowed to play, and I thought Columbus certainly through 40 minutes they outchanced them, they outplayed them, they were more physical, they outskated them. I mean, it was really across the board.
Yeah.
It's not. We can't. We're trying to stop from constantly putting a playoff lens on everything. You can't do that. I mean, it's not. We're just not doing that 82 times this year. Maybe I'm falling victim to the social media stuff, because after the show we had yesterday, where it was a love fest because they deserved it and they played so well, then they play like that, and then it swings the other way. And the amount of people sending me messages, wow, you guys were really loving the Leafs. Yeah, they deserved it. I mean, they deserved a ton of credit the way they played against Tampa. They deserved a lot of credit. And I think through 7 games, 6 of the 7, I think they played well. I thought they got goalied opening night against Montembeault in the Habs, and they got goalied against Shesterkin. Last night they were awful. 1 of 7, you're really, really bad. But when you play awful, you got to call a spade a spade. And in reality, if you're going to get goalied or you're going to have the other team that shows up and just outperforms you, and that's going to happen, this is why, every point counts, and it's cliche. Yet now you got a scenario here where through 7 games for the Leafs, again, I think – collectively, they've played pretty well. I think they've played well early in the season, yet you're 4-3. Mm-hmm. You're not off to some great start. Yeah. You're 4-3. Tampa's
That's the thing about the game,
Florida and Ottawa's ahead of you.
It's a swing game where 5-2 looks so much better.
Exactly.
Right?
This early in the season. That's all it is.
It's just one of those swing games where it's like, it's not the end of the world if you do lose it, but man, 5-2 looks a hell of a lot better.
10 points, leading the division. You're like,
right.
let's see what we got here moving forward, and they didn't take advantage of that last night. So
I think it was a schedule game too. You got 5 games in a week. You're going to have a dud here or there. It happens. I thought you made a great point. Good teams, it's all of a sudden like somehow you're like, you don't deserve to win that game, but it's 1-1 or you're losing 2-1 with 10 minutes left, and you find a way to get points.
Yeah.
Like that just, and I'm not suggesting that, but like last night it was just to a man. I don't know. Can you guys tell me?
No.
Nobody
played well.
Nobody had a good game.
No.
We were looking for 2.
Exactly.
Like we were trying to think of 2 guys that could have dragged the team out of the mud. Noodles, like I know you were working in Utah. It was one of those games where I was watching and I'm like, oh my God, it's not like a line or a D pairing. Every single guy played their worst possible game. And it was like, I had to stop watching it. I'm like, there is no way out of this. And I'll give Columbus one thing. You could tell Dean Evison has told that hockey team, we might not make the playoffs this year, guys, and we might not be very good. But if he's probably read on the riot act, if you don't bust your ass out there, I'm going to have a serious problem and you probably won't play. Because they're going to work hard. You got to give them that. They're going to go out there and bust their ass.
For sure they are. And when you look at the guys who got on the game sheet, that Justin Danforth, a local guy, he was playing in the K for a while, not very big, but he can skate. He's built like a truck, and I
thought that Olivier was like a tough guy beating up people last year. He is.
Well, that's what I was going to get to. He scores 2 on you last night. And I was surprised Reeves wasn't trying to tap someone on the shoulder last night, him in particular, where, again, in the 3 losses, and it's not as if this is Reeves' fault or anything, but they lose to Montreal opening night. Jack Guy wanted a piece of him, and he chose not to take it. You could see it early in the game. Jack Guy wanted to go him, and they didn't fight. Then Rempe's there on Saturday, doesn't fight him, and then Olivier scores 2, and you lose to Columbus. It's like, what is going on here? Like, I kind of anticipated Reeves to be like, listen, we're going to lose, and they got a heavyweight who's putting in goal. I got to go tap this guy on the shoulder. Like, I got to go over there and try to get something going. A forecheck is one thing, but maybe a fight last night gets the place going. gets the bench going. And that didn't even happen.
Well, it has to happen early because it seems like those tough guys, the part of the code is when it's a blowout, nobody's wasting their time doing it.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to break a knuckle when it's 6-0. The other guy doesn't want to do it. It's 2-0. One guy says, you know what, I need to spark the team. 3-0, that's generally when that stuff happens. Or if there's a greasy play or a greasy hit. But it just didn't materialize. But Ryan Reeves, farthest thing from the issue.
No, of course, that's not at the forefront. That's
yeah.
not what I'm suggesting. But the game within the game is interesting. In the 3 losses, there have been 3 very declared heavyweights, on the opponents, and it just never materialized. And I figured at some point Reeves might say, I'm going to go out and try to spice something up here, and it never happened. And now you turn the page, and you got a big one for Craig Berube tomorrow. He's playing his former team.
Yeah.
You got St. Louis in town, and they're off today. That was a scheduled off day. They'll have a pregame skate tomorrow. We'll find out what happens with Joseph Woll. But Hildeby struggled last night. He struggled like everyone else. Yeah. Like, it's not – they didn't lose because of Hildeby. But that is a game where maybe if you have a goalie who stands on his head or plays really well, it keeps you in it. You're down 2-0 going into the third, and you're alive, or down 2-1. And Hildeby just didn't have it. And that is a rarity this year because through 6 starts prior to last night, they've had very good goaltending. Like, Stolarz has been great, and Hildeby was really good in Jersey on his start. And last night he didn't have it. And now you turn the page, and you're coming off a bad effort, bad loss, big game tomorrow against your coach's former team. Does Woll go in tomorrow? Or do you say, I don't care what the plan was, we got to get better. We got to improve on our effort the other night. And it's a big one for me personally, Berube. And I don't think he put his own feelings before the team. But I'd play Stolarz tomorrow. I'm playing Stolarz tomorrow and Monday, and I'd say I'll find your game when I can get to you, Joseph Woll. That would be my approach.
What about Saturday, though? Woll would be going in Saturday then.
I'd play him. No, I'd play him tomorrow, Thursday, and then play Stolarz Saturday against Boston. And then I'd play Stolarz probably Monday against Winnipeg.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'm playing Woll, I guess is my answer. Like, I don't know when I'm playing Woll, but my priority isn't I got to get Joseph Woll playing and feeling good.
Absolutely
I got to put the best team forward right now.
Especially when you have a guy that's established himself as playing well, Hayes. Like, it's not just about Joseph Woll and him getting in and feeling better. It's about we got 3 tough games, and we got a guy who's dynamite right now. We got to put the best – every coach puts the best team on the ice to give themselves the best chance to win that night, or so they think. So that would mean he wouldn't start. Like, hometown. Is Joseph Woll from, like, St. Louis or something?
Yeah, he's a Missouri kid, I believe.
It is, yeah. He's from there. Just remind me one thing. Why was Woll not playing yesterday? Was there any narrative
coming
out
an
of that? I didn't see anything.
No one has an answer.
Exactly. So I would say this. If they saved the start for Thursday, so be it. He's an NHL player, and he needs to go and play well, regardless if he's missed time. My only concern, and I agree with you guys about Stolarz, he's played very well. Keep in mind, the most he's ever played in one season is 28 games. If he ends up playing 4 in a week, like you might find, and I know you can bleed Woll back into it, but I worry that it's too much too soon for Stolarz, and maybe he takes a step back in his play, and it takes him a while to climb back into it. That's my only worry with a guy who's literally has not played starter minutes, and he's 30. He's not like he's 23, like he's 30. So I think the start should be Woll. He's a St. Louis guy. You haven't played in a while. You know your team's going to respond. They were terrible last night to a man. I think they will be flying tomorrow night. Mm-hmm. So you are going to probably get some goal support. Robert Thomas, it looks like, broke his leg or broke his ankle or whatever. So that's that's a big blow for St. Louis. He's a hell of a player. So, I mean, it sets up, just me personally, I would probably play Woll if he's available. I guess my only question to you guys is, I didn't see any information coming out why he didn't play last night.
And that's what makes this conversation difficult, because there is a very good chance, in reality, a very good chance.
Don't say it, a setback.
No, not even a setback. He's just not ready. Like Berube said last night, he's close. That's the update, close. But he was close on the weekend, and he was close at times last week. And when he originally went on IR, it was, it's nothing. We're just being precautionary. That was 2 weeks ago. Like, opening night was 2 weeks ago today, and he hasn't played. So I guess it is difficult to have the conversation without knowing if Woll will even be available. If he's not, obviously Stolarz will play. But You've got, a St. Louis team who's not a world beater, but you just went through that with Columbus, and you mentioned Robert Thomas is out. That's a big hit for them. But it's a meaningful game for your coach. It's a meaningful game for your team coming off the performance you just had on Tuesday against Columbus. But then you got at Boston, at Winnipeg, Monday, Saturday. And those two teams, like Boston, we know what that is. We know what the history is. We know what the rivalry is. We know what that game is going to mean. Stolarz is playing that game. Winnipeg won again last night. They're 6-0. They're the best team in the league. Like, I think you got to put your best foot forward in Winnipeg if you expect to win. Like, you're going to have to put whoever you think is the best goalie at that time. And I can't imagine that will change from Stolarz to Woll between now and Monday night in Winnipeg.
No.
So it is a conundrum in terms of Woll. Like, you got to get him. He's going to play. And everything you said is well stated, Noodles. Like, Stolarz, it cannot start 65 games. That's not happening. So you're going to have to get your other guy in, and you want to believe there will be ebbs and flows over the course of the year, where it might be even easier to go with Stolarz every night if Woll was healthy.
Hey,
because you'd say he's hot, play him, and then when Woll gets hot, we'll play him. But that's not the case right now.
You said he's not going to play 60, and that would be stupid, which I totally agree with. But at some point, don't you want to find out if he can stretch it past 25 or whatever his max on the season? Like, Noodles, what is the number where you're like, okay, we're going to see if this guy can play X amount of games? What's that number? Is it 40?
It's something with a 4 in it. It could be high 4s. Could be 48. Could be 51. Like, it just, I'm with Bryan. I don't see him going from, playing low 15s to 20, 28 max in a year, all of a sudden to 64. It just, especially when he hasn't been conditioned to do it. I'm sure he did it in the minors and everywhere else because everyone was always a starter and a star before they got to the NHL. But I think there's a balance here, and I think tomorrow's start, if Joseph Woll is healthy, that's his start because of what you just laid out, Bryan. Boston and Winnipeg right around the corner. Like, those teams are, top-tier teams that you're fighting for position for the top of the league. And that's, and St. Louis will be an emotional game for Craig Berube, but at some point Joseph Woll has to get back in there. Why not do it against your home team?
Yeah, and that sounds like it's likely to be the case. If he can play, if he's in a position to play, it sounds like it likely will be. And you just got to get a better effort, and you hope that he plays well, and then you move on. You're 5-3, Boston, Winnipeg coming up, and it's go time from there. All right, we got Ray Ferraro on. Ray's coming up today at 5. We got Ray coming up. Jerry's coming up. We got Dregs coming up. The Raptors home opener tonight. What'd you guys think of LeBron and Bronny going on at the same time?
Dude,
last
I'm
night?
sorry. Like,
this
is like a legacy play for LeBron, and like he's playing with his kid. I find it to be the goofiest thing ever. Like, it's one thing if the kid was the next LeBron or the next big thing, but this is just the almost elitist case of what parents would do for their kids these days. And I'm sure we see crazy hockey parents in Toronto where they would do anything. They'll pay for any lessons. They'll do anything for their kid. But when you're LeBron James, this is that version of what you could do for your kid. Get him drafted to your team so you can play with him on the same team. That's like the ultimate crazy parent thing to do nowadays. And any of these crazy hockey parents in Toronto, they would do the same thing if they could. But I don't know, the kid, he got 0 points last night.
He played 2 minutes last night. It was really...
He took up some shots and there were bricks, and it's like, so what even are you?
Yeah, he picked up a rebound. He's not ready to play in the NBA.
No kidding, but when is he ever going to be? You talk about it being a grown-ass man league, like, that guy might never play. Like, LeBron might retire, and that guy will be on his way out the door with him.
Yeah, well, that's the reality, and that's the thing. I felt for him last. Like I felt.
So did I. I'm like, this is like a.
I felt for him the whole time because this is, people have been using the Ken Griffey Jr. and senior comparisons. Where Griffey was the #1 prospect in baseball. Like Griffey's in the Hall of Fame. Ken Griffey Jr. Like Jr. was so hyped. And it was like, you can't wait to see this guy play. And immediately, from day one, he was better than his dad. Like, immediately. Like, Senior was a good player and all that. But immediately, it was like, this kid, Junior, is unbelievable. and wait till you see how his career plays out. And it played out the way many people anticipated it would. This is the complete opposite, where LeBron is so powerful and so great that he called his shot years ago, my dream is to play with my kid, and he just checked a box last night. And the amazing thing is the Lakers were in on it. J.J. Redick was in on it, his podcast host. Hey, take me out and then put us in together, and Bronny's going to play 2 minutes and then get him out because we got to win the game.
Dude, Anthony
That's
Edwards,
what it was last night.
Who was teammates with LeBron at the Olympics, was giving it to Bronny. He's like, you don't even need to shower tonight. You're okay, he was saying to him. He was just giving it to him. And you know that guy, he doesn't hold back on anyone.
He's all
He
over
was
him.
saying, hold off on the shower. You're all good tonight. Like, do you know how embarrassing that is? It's like the fantasy world of like a contest winner, like where it's just this extreme contest winner. You get to go play in the NBA. I don't know how the kid didn't put a kibosh on. Like, I know his old man's a powerful guy, and LeBron is this massive thing in the world where.
And he's earned all of that. Let's clarify.
Yeah,
that's not up for dispute.
He's earned it all, but I'm shocked that he would go to the extent to pull this off, where he thinks like his need to play with his son would be the best thing for everybody. But I guess when you got tunnel vision on something, you don't look at the outside kind of view of it, where like how goofy that looks. I think it's the goofiest thing ever, seeing that kid out there, man.
I just wonder in a candid moment what his teammates think of it. Like that's where the guys on the plane, the guys in the locker room when Bronny's not around, you're going like, this is
that is the.
And I don't think LeBron cares.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about the other day, Noodles, was LeBron, is probably saying, come sit back at the back of the bus, at the back of the plane, where Bronny's in a situation where he shouldn't be doing that. He should be in the G League. He should be at school is where he should be. He should be still growing as a player. And, easy for us to say it's not our life, it's not our kid. But it was awkward. And, like, the little exchange at the top of the key there, like a pick and roll where you could see LeBron was like, go over there. Like, once you start playing, it was awkward last night. It was a show. Like, that's what it was. And I'm curious where the show goes from here. All right, Ray's coming up. Jerry's coming up. Mood meter. I got my 7 Canadian teams from happiest to grumpiest, the coaches behind the bench. We'll break that down, and we'll do it next. OverDrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Raptors tipping off their season tonight. We'll get to that in our best bets later this afternoon. Ray's coming up. Ray Ferraro in about a half an hour. Jerry's percentages in an hour. Only one game in the NHL tonight after 16 last night. 16 games last night. There were one the night before, then 16, then one. It's a weird kind of schedule this week. But that's where we're at. And we established the mood meter last year for coaches in the country, right? 7 coaches, 7 teams. And for the most part, it's been a pretty, I think, positive start, collectively for the country. And some teams more than others, clearly. But I thought it'd be a good idea considering every team played yesterday, right? All 7 Canadian teams played, every team in the league played for that matter. 2 weeks into the season, probably the appropriate time to fire up the mood meter. So I have my 7 listed. Why don't I run these down? You guys can react. Okay, you can tell me.
Is this because Craig Berube has got to be at number 1 for just head popping off mad?
Well, I don't think so. Did you see what happened in Edmonton last night? Like, let's not get crazy here. They blew a 2-goal lead and lost in overtime last night. And all right, I'll run it down. You guys tell me. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. And there is recency bias, clearly, based on what happened, to some extent last night.
Okay, number 1 is the most happy or least most happy?
Why don't we go from least happy to most happy?
Okay.
You want to do that? Start at the bottom, and we'll end with something that's going to pop here. Number 7 is Chris Knoblauch. It has to be, in my opinion. The head coach of the Oilers, their power play has been abysmal. Like, that's what they've had, maybe the greatest power play of all time the last couple of years. They're like
history of the
28th
game.
in the league. Yeah, it's crazy, what's happening there. The best Zach Hyman does not have a point in 7 games. Not 1 point in 7. It is a wild start for Hyman. Skinner's stats haven't been great. He hasn't played well. Everyone, we're watching it. They had it last night. They let it get away. They still got a point, but it's not been a good start in Edmonton. And you probably thought after last year, let's learn from that mistake. Even though Knoblauch wasn't there for it, he actually was the beneficiary of that poor start because he came in after Woodcroft was let go. But I have Chris Knobloch at 7.
Yeah, you would think that after they got the win in Nashville, did they not? They went to Nashville,
Yes.
Vegas. Then they go to Dallas and they get kind of dummied 4-1 by the Dallas Stars. And then it would be like, okay, let's pick up the pieces. And it's just, they haven't got it going yet is the bottom line. You honestly, that's just fact. You can't argue that because it wasn't good in training camp. The start was a messy with a couple games. They just haven't got flowing yet. And you mentioned the goalie, Hyman, the power play. Some things need to start churning in the right direction or else it's going to be pissy there like it was last year. And it's like, why do you want to put yourself through that? I know there's fatigue from going to the finals. I did it. It's tough, but you got to get over it and snap out of it or else everyone is just miserable.
I think, it's where they probably should have won like that Dallas.
All right, let's mute off Noodles. We're having some technical difficulties in Vegas. We're having some issues in Vegas. I think it's the flu. Unfortunately, I think the internet might have the flu or be hungover.
His machine has the flu.
His machine picked up the flu from Salt Lake to Vegas. He's the busiest man in show business. He's working. Know. He's trying to call games. He's trying to do the show. He's not feeling well. What are you going to do? Let's give him the rest of the day off. I think that's probably appropriate. Don't you think?
Absolutely.
Shut the mill down. Go hit the felt a little bit later.
Fire something up. Go to a studio. Go somewhere else tomorrow.
Yes.
And we'll catch you tomorrow.
I'll
tell you
tomorrow.
what. My only thing for Vegas, if I was ill in Vegas, I would take the chance of just getting after to see if that would help. The Hal Gill special.
I agree
Not
with you.
just one. Like, you can't be there and lie in bed and watch soap operas and say I'm sick.
You can't do it.
No way. No.
You can't do it. Like, they don't play until Friday, man. He's there 2 nights. Like, tomorrow's an off day. Tonight's the Hal Gill special.
Yes.
Right? You got the day off, right? Get a 4-finger scotch going, see what happens. Maybe get a steam in.
And you ease into it. You just wiggle down to the hotel lobby bar. You ease into a glass with 5 fingers in it. And you ease, because that's what Skillsy wanted, and you ease into it and see if that gives you a kickstart, and then you absolutely pin it. Solo mission. I don't care if he's between the benches green. You got to get after it.
I agree, and they pump oxygen into those casinos, man. You sit at a table, go play blackjack, go play whatever game you want to play. You're going to come to life. You're going to mix in some
I never thought
drinks.
that affected me, man. I don't know why. Like,
the oxygen, I don't know if it does either, quite frankly. And that may just be a myth. I'm not even sure if it's
like when you're
truthful
countering the amount of booze people are shoving in their face, there's not enough oxygen in the world to keep some of those humans awake.
I think that's accurate. But it is it's a wild scene in Vegas. And what is it, 137 local right there? It's rocking right now. You can find somewhere in Vegas right now to come alive. All right, back into the mood meter here. Chris Knobloch at 7. At 6, I have Marty St. Louis. 2-4-1. Listen, they're not a great team in Montreal. They got hit with the injury bug early with Laine. Now Slavkovsky's out. But you got to turn something around at some point.
Dude, I agree.
You got to win opening night. Montembeault played great. You got to win against Toronto. There's a start. Okay, you got something now. Since then, they have been losing. They've been getting pumped. Lane Hudson's in the firing line now because he's really played poorly defensively. He had a really bad turnover that the Rangers capitalized on last night.
Well, hey, the organization said, oh, God, if we send this guy down to the minors, the fans are going to be all over us. You better make the proper assessment of that kid because that might be the place for him to go if he keeps getting dummied like that defensively.
Yes.
And did you see that hit last night?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, welcome to the National Hockey League, man. Like, it's and you're talking the Trouba hit in particular, or are you talking the one
I'm talking the Trouba hit where it's like the guy crosses, who was that, Barron?
Yeah.
And he's looking at the puck and looking at his pass. Like, you want to pull that stunt in that league, man? Watch out.
With that guy in particular coming at you.
Yes, he's maybe one of 4 guys that might do that to you, and he did it.
Yeah, you cannot go down Trouba's side and not be looking at what he's doing. Like, you can't do it, and that's what happened to Barron last night. But Hudson, again, has been struggling and defensively. And you're right, we had Jeff Gorton on from Royal Montreal. We were talking about it. Like, hey, there's a lot of buzz here for Hudson. He had a phenomenal preseason.
No kidding.
Phenomenal preseason. But he's young. Defensive play was always going to be an issue. Dancing and getting up into the play and maybe being inserted into the second power play unit, that can get you some cookies and some points. But you're a defenseman in the league. Like, you got to be able to defend. You got to be able to avoid bad turnovers.
And Hayes, we touched on it with Buffalo a little bit. Like, I believe sometimes when they've declared it the rebuild, you can kind of fall in love with your own ideas and your own draft picks where it's like, well, that's the guy we got from so-and-so in a deal or a trade or a draft or a signing. And it's like, sooner or later, Marty St. Louis saying, these guys aren't helping us win any more games.
Yep.
Like, the collection of people we have here are just not doing it on a regular basis. I saw the clips on Jay of Marty St. Louis, like, coaching and teaching, and sooner or later he's got to say, do you not know what the hell to do here? Like, this is the NHL. It's not the developmental league. Guys are like, where do I can't stand when I see that, guys on the bench. Did you want me to go here? Or, dude, that's for the AHL and ECHL, East Coast Hockey League. You don't ask people that in that league. I don't understand. Like, where do I go
camp.
or what did you want me to do? Come on, man.
He just got through camp, and Marty's been there for a long time. He's been there for years now. Like, he's established his systems and, all that kind of stuff. And, yeah, it's been an ugly start. It has been in Montreal. And, again, I didn't think it was going to be a good year for them anyway. I thought this would be a difficult year, a challenging year, but you got to take steps, and you need your best players to look like that. Suzuki hasn't loved this game early in the year. Caulfield's been scoring, a lot on the power play, but he's been scoring. But now Slavkovsky banged up. He's week to week. Marty St. Louis at 6 on the mood meter for Canadian coaches. At number 5 is Craig Berube. And he would have been further up this list if last night didn't happen.
Yes.
And I think it's a testament to...
He got caught in the crosshairs of recency.
Yes, he did. And other teams are playing really well in the country. That's another thing. Like, someone's got to be at 5 because the other teams are playing pretty well and feeling pretty good. And 2 in particular have been great. So I got Berube at 5. Again, I think the Leafs, 6 of their 7 games, they've played well. And a few of those games, they played really, really well. And I think he'd be really happy with their effort. Last night was awful. We've talked about it. It's been established. If you watched it, it was horrible. They played horribly. They didn't show up. And the game was over quick. And that's going to bother Berube. But at the end of the day, you are what your record says you are in pro sports, especially when you're a veteran team, elite team. They're 4-3. It's a good start. It's a good start. It's not a great start. Not an out-of-this-world start. It's just a good start. And Berube's at 5. At 4, I have Rick Tocchet. They got a win in Chicago last night. They actually, they've blown a couple of leads, including opening night against Calgary. The Pettersson stuff is still hanging around him and that team. But without Demko, and basically without Pettersson, because Pettersson has not been contributing whatsoever, they're off to a pretty good start.
Dude. That's scary stuff. EP40 is just a guy out there.
That's what he is. He is just blending into hockey games.
Wow.
And yet they're 3-1-2, and that's not a bad start. Like, it's really not when you consider your highest paid players playing the way he's playing, and you don't have your starting goalie. So I got Rick Tocchet at 4. I have Travis Green at 3. Now, last night, recency bias, but they got off to a 4-0 start quick against Utah, and they held on. And Olmar kind of jammed them because I think they were hoping he'd play. He didn't play, but his replacement obviously had a shutout and played really well. I thought they played really well against L.A. and Tampa, but their goaltending really hurt them.
Well, that's the thing. If this Olmark, and God knows what's up with this guy, and God knows what he has planned for the next 5 years in Ottawa, because it's the last thing the organization needed, and I hope some of the messages I'm getting are false, because that's the last thing the Sens need. This was supposed to be the guy to solve the problem, and you fly out to Utah, up, ready to go, going back, and then all of a sudden there's setback.
Yep.
Like,
and we'll see if he plays against Vegas on Friday, but that's not going to be an easy task. But they need him. He's got to play. This isn't like the Joseph Woll scenario where Woll and Stolarz were going to be a tandem. Olmark's the man. Like, he is the committed man. You got to be the guy. But, again, I think they've collectively as a team, they've gotten off to a good start. That's been an issue for them in the past. They're 4-2. We know it, man. That's been their kryptonite. They've started the first 10, 15, 20 games of past seasons with DJ Smith and whoever else was behind a bench. And they've basically punted on their season by the middle of November. They're out of the race. They don't have enough to get back in it. That hasn't been the case this year. Good start, good win last night. Ottawa, 4-2 on the year. Travis Green, number 3 in terms of the mood meter. So we're getting happier as we move on here. This, I think, might surprise you. I think everyone knew who the two coaches were going to be at the top. I actually have Scott O'Neill of the Jets at number 2. They have not lost a game. They have not lost a game. They are perfect.
I got to say, I totally agree with your decision to put
Ryan Huska at 1. Ryan
Huska at 1, because he probably thought that he was in line for some misery from the start to the finish.
Yep.
And he has definitely got to be the happiest guy in the coach meter.
Absolutely. And listen, O'Neill, he's new there. He's within the organization. He's been around the league for a while.
Coached them last year when Rick was away.
Exactly. And like he obviously he's ecstatic. They're 6-0. Like he's ecstatic right now. But they were expected to be a good team, to be a playoff team. Hellebuck's been great, and you can rely on that. They're scoring a lot of goals. Winnipeg is putting up a lot of offense. You know who's had a great start is Cole Perfetti. Perfetti is getting like a new coach kind of bump. Like he's off to a really good start. But O'Neill at 2 and Huska at 1 of the Flames, because Calgary's 5-0-1, and like they battled back and they got it last night. I just give them full credit, man. I was out on Calgary. Like, I was all out on Calgary. I still don't believe they can win the Cup. They were a part of my first 10.
Yeah.
But you look at Nas, the way he's playing, Kadri's playing, Uyghur's been good. They're getting goaltending. Dustin Wolf, who's young, has played really well. And they look like a team that has read their press clippings and said, we're not going to just be doormats in the league. Like, I know Markstrom's not here anymore. I know we're working towards a new rink in the future, and maybe they're going to rebuild and all that kind of stuff. Not doing it. And to their credit, man, there's some veterans on that team. Huberdeau's been way better, played the best he's played as a Calgary Flame. I give full credit to Calgary. Ryan Huska, the happiest coach in Canada.
Couldn't agree more with your list, and I don't say that often. Calgary Flames, the question is, and you know who's kind of looked good in some of the starts is the Wolf kid.
Yes, been great.
Because even Noodles talked about him. Everybody in hockey was talking about him as he's this next young kid. And I always looked at him, I'm like, is that guy big enough? Like, I know there's Saros where everyone says, oh, UC Saros isn't that big a guy. But they generally get beat a lot if you're not that big. It's like Saros is the outlier.
And look how Saros is playing now. And again, that's a slow start. But
yeah, but this kid looks good. Everything looks dialed in for Calgary, which is nice to see.
He looks great. Yep. So there it is. There's the mood meter. Through 2 weeks. We'll do this, I'd say, every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And, Ryan Huska, Scott O'Neill, Travis Green, Rick Tocchet, Craig Berube, Marty St. Louis, Chris Knobloch, 1 through 7. Canadian coach mood meter.
Man, I did not have Knobloch down there at 7 this early into the season, dude.
Isn't it wild what Edmonton's doing? Like, they're 2-4-1. Last year, I think they only had 2 wins in their first 9 games. I think they went 2-9-1 last year, and that's what led to Woodcroft, being shown the door. And I think they felt better about their game. They played well in Nashville. I thought they played pretty well in Dallas, but in the third, it just got away from them.
Yeah.
And, last night again, though, like that's a scenario where you've got to lead. You're at home. You get the best players in the world. Win that 4-0. Don't lose 3-2.
And you got a couple
overtime.
Goals from McDavid.
Exactly. McDavid gets you on the board quick. The power play, the place is hopping. They're going crazy. And you end up just throwing a point away. And, like, I still believe they'll figure this out. It's too early to sell them off. I think that would be a silly decision for anyone to suggest Edmonton can't get back into the dance and make noise. But like the Leaf conversation, where do you want to be seated? Do you want to finish first? Do you want home ice? What if you run into injuries? Then what? Like, you've played your bullet in October.
Well,
you usually only get 1.
What happens, Hayes, if this turns into a mess for them again? Like, what's the
Can't
way
fire
out
the
of it?
coach again.
No, you are definitely not firing Knobloch. You are not doing that.
No.
So what the hell's the way out? You're up against it cap-wise. Like, what's
Great
the way
question.
out?
Great question. I guess it's on the players.
That's
it.
it.
It's on the players.
And I've been a part of so many meetings where a team is playing poorly and the GM comes in and says, nothing to do here, nowhere to go. And the classic line will come out, tried to trade all of you, but nobody wants you. So you guys have to figure it out. There's just no answer here.
Yeah.
We're not getting other players / better players. You guys have to figure it out.
I love that. We tried. Nobody wants you.
Nobody wants
Nobody
you.
wants any of you. Ray Ferraro in 15 minutes. Jerry's percentages coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, we've sent Al's brother out somewhere in the city with a pair of Leaf tickets, and you have to guess where he's hiding for your chance to win them. We're into day 3 of the clues, right? 3 of 4. Today and tomorrow, your final clues. I have no idea where Al's brother is. Let's get to the third clue of the week.
Leaf fans, you guys any closer to finding out where I am? I gotta say, I do feel like I underdressed considering I am currently in the bridle path.
Ooh, I know where he is. Okay. Now I know where he is. Now I know where he is.
Casa Loma?
No, Casa Loma's not
Dude,
on the
I
bridle
don't know.
path. Casa Loma's nowhere close to the
Dude,
bridle
don't get
path.
downtown Toronto snob guy on me.
That is a
because-
snob. I'll grant you that's a snobby answer,
yeah,
but
that wasn't just Casa Loma's not in the bridle path. It
not
was
even
like,
close.
That was a hillbilly comment.
that sounds
I
like
don't
you're from
know-
a different country. Like that's honestly like we're streaming and you're in Europe somewhere. No, he's not at Casa Loma. I know where he is. I think everyone's going to know where he is now. I don't know why he has
there's
to be
only one
dressed any
place
better.
in the bridle path that's kind of connected to sports.
Yes. I think we all know where he is now. I think we got an idea. But again, why do you have to be dressed up to be where he's at? Like I don't really understand why he'd have to be more dressed up.
Maybe it's a trick play for once, and he's not
could
where
be.
we think he is.
It could
But
be.
I don't know what else. Did he say in or near?
He said, in the general vicinity of the bridle path. I don't know if he's on the street itself, but I think in the neighborhood. Maybe somewhere else. Maybe he's at the Granite Club or something like that. It's possible. Could be somewhere else. We'll see. Hour 2 coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.